Before the iconic Old Trafford, Manchester United played their football at two grounds that have long disappeared, that most visitors to the city would have no idea ever even existed. One at North Road and one at Bank Street. So today, let's go on a journey through Manchester, starting at the Manchester City Stadium, and see what remains of the two old grounds connected to this iconic club. Why are we starting at this City ground though? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple really. First, we get to marvel at how grey and miserable their stadium looks. Alright, that was just a joke. And secondly, the two previous stadiums of United were both located in East Manchester, not very far from City's current stadium. So here, we have City's answer to Wembley Way, much less populated of course. And here, we have the City car park, about as full as it usually is on match day. Alright, I've got a couple of mates that are City fans, so I do apologise for these comments. They are a decent club with a decent history.
No, they're not. They only have 50 fans.
I apologise on behalf of my mum too. So let's head off to the two classic iconic stadiums and see what remains. So after crossing what seemed like Mount Everest in these slippy conditions, Nice. This will look great when I'm walking amongst the office workers who are currently situated at the location where the North Road ground used to be located. But before we get to the North Road Stadium location, let's get into a little bit of the history. The North Road ground was the home of United from its inception in 1878 all the way up to 1893, though at that time they weren't known as United, rather they were known as Newton Heath LYR, as it was located close to Newton Heath and it was created by the railway workers of Lancashire and Yorkshire, hence the LYR part. The ground, however, was around before the birth of Newton Heath and actually belonged to the Manchester Cathedral authorities. The club would therefore have to lease the ground out and pay rent to play there, but they were happy to do this as conveniently it was situated very near to the wagon works where the railway workers would work. The conditions, however, were, let's say, not the most convenient for a good game of football. In the summer, the pitch would become dry and bumpy, whilst in the winter, it would become a muddy, soggy mess. Sort of similar to today. The list of bad points, however, would not end there. As I stated earlier, it was conveniently situated next to the workplace of the players, but this meant the pitch would often be enveloped with a thick cloud of steam emanating from the passing trains, causing disruption and often leading to complaints from the opposition teams. Moreover, changing rooms were not available at the stadium. As the years went by and football became a professional sport, United would sign their first professional players in 1886, which would lead to even more problems with the stadium. As professional players were signed, the club's wage bill increased, and as the club didn't have the money to fund this increase, they would decide to increase their admission charge for fans to come and watch the game. Along with a lack of funds, the club felt they needed to increase the capacity of the stadium in order to be invited into the Football League, and they therefore purchased two new grandstands which would hold a further 2,000 people. The railway company, however, declined to contribute to the transaction, and the relationship between the railway company and the club became strained, eventually leading to a split between the club and once again the railway company. Yeah, I said railway company like way too many times there. Anyway, this therefore led to the railway company halting rent payments to the cathedral due to the rift, which actually coincided with the cathedral authorities actually increasing the rent, and with the cathedral objecting to the fact that the club were charging an admission fee for fans to come and watch the game, in the end decided to issue an eviction notice in June of 1893. And this is the area where the original stadium stood. We now have in its place a business park, the police headquarters, offices, and where this Fujitsu office is where the old stadium actually stood. And now, onto the Bank Street Stadium. The Bank Street Stadium was also not owned by the club and was leased to the club for 8 months annually. Originally, it was named the Bradford and Clayton Athletic Ground, and initially, just as with the previous stadium, there were no proper stands for fans to watch the game from. The club had tried to bring over the 2 stands they had added at the previous ground, but that was not possible, and therefore, stands were not added until a few months later, right before the beginning of the next season. Newton Heath's first season at the new ground was absolutely disastrous as they failed to retain their their first division status, finishing right at the very bottom of the league. Moreover, just as with the previous stadium, problems would occur with the stadium and the pitch, even prompting a once visiting Walsall Town team to refer to it as a toxic waste dump. As we already stated, the financials of the club were extremely precarious, and therefore in order to compete and keep up with other clubs, the club purchased a 2,000 capacity stand from Broughton Rangers Rugby League Club, and another stand was also added in order to help generate funds to help the club. The finances though were still a big problem, and in January of 1902 the club faced a widening up order endangering the future of the club and the stadium at Bank Street. A last minute rescue came from local brewer John Henry Davis and 4 others, injecting £2,000 into the club. Yes, £2,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but back then it was a massive amount. Davis went on to finance a new 1,000 seat stand, and the future looked extremely bright and prosperous for the now named Man United. Over the next few years, Bank Street underwent significant upgrades, and eventually the stand had built up so much that 50,000 spectators could be housed to come and watch the games. The stadium hosted some massive matches, including clashes between the Football League and Scottish Football League representatives, but despite things moving forward and despite achieving massive success on the pitch at this stadium, with the club winning their first league title in 1908 and an FA Cup in 1909, the owners decided that the Bank Street Stadium was still not fit enough for the club's future ambitions. As time went on, plans were eventually made to relocate to Old Trafford, and Bank Street was eventually sold to the Manchester Corporation for the grand sum of £5,500. The club, however, would still continue to use the stadium as the lease that they had undertaken had still not expired, so United would finally leave Bank Street in 1912, not knowing what future fortunes lay ahead for the club. And this, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and ladies, this building right here is where the old Bank Street Stadium once stood. And opposite the stadium, where these houses are, is where we have the plaque to commemorate the history of the greatest football club in the world. Here's a good look at what lies in its place now, and it's basically a BMX arena, and I'm pretty sure it was used in the Commonwealth Games as well. And just as I pointed out at the start of the video, it is very close, not far at all, from Manchester City's Etihad Stadium.
A few minutes later.
Someone, what are you doing?
Making a food for the break the fast.
And are United the most fantastic, amazing, super califragilistic, expedaliosus football club in the world?
Yeah.
Can you please hold the mic closer to your mouth?
Yes.
And your prediction came right last time about United beating Liverpool, so are we going to do the home double over them next Sunday?
I can't tell you yet. So
Hold the microphone closer to your mouth.
I can't tell you yet.
Yes.
So you have to wait for the match.
On Sunday?
Yeah.
But you do know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll wait for the matchday vlog. And tell them to subscribe for the best matchday vlogs in the world.
Yeah.